Hello, my dear adventurers. It's the Sleep Weaver. Welcome back to another evening of shared stories and adventures. Tonight we're going on a whole new cozy adventure. This time, we're in the brass towers of Chronhaven, a city where magic and machinery dance together in uneasy partnership. Answering a call to help from a desperate dwarf artificer who's uncovered a conspiracy that threatens to enslave an entire city through the control of its infrastructure, for reasons which we'll come to learn are far more complex than simple greed. The Merchants Consortium is building something called the Conductor, a device that could turn every citizen into a puppet, dancing to Lady Gearhart's tune. And our mission will send us deep into the forbidden Undercity, where machines have developed minds of their own, and the line between salvation and tyranny grows dangerously thin. But of course, there's always more going on behind the scenes, and it's up to us to discover just what happens when brilliant minds justify terrible means in the name of saving civilization. But there'll be banter, infiltration, explosions, moral dilemmas, all the good steampunk adventure. Stuff we all love. But now, get cozy and make sure you have a couple of alchemical vials on hand. And let's begin. The brass spyglass feels cold against your eye as you scan the harbor from your vantage point atop the Lighthouse keeper's quarters. 3 ships have docked in the past hour, each flying the crimson and gold pennants of the Merchants Consortium. 17, this week, far too many for ordinary trade. Beside you, Sarah adjusts the straps on her bandolier lined with glass vials that clink with each move. Each movement makes her glass vials clink. Sunlight gleams on the alchemist's dark skin, a side effect of her experimental elixirs. Her cropped silver hair, favored by university scholars, catches the breeze. Something's wrong with this picture, she mutters, squinting at the ships. Those aren't cargo vessels. Look at how low they sit in the water. They're carrying something heavy, very heavy. You lower the spyglass and pass it to her. What do you think? Weapons? Gold? Sarah takes a long look, her amber eyes narrowing. Neither. See those reinforced hull plates? And the way the deckhands are being so careful with the cargo nets? Whatever they're moving, it's fragile and valuable. The two of you have been working together for the better part of 3 years now, ever since that business with the smuggling ring in Port Ethra. You're a rogue by trade and training, though you prefer the term independent acquisition specialist. Sarah calls you a thief with delusions of grandeur. You call her an arsonist with a chemistry degree. It's a functional partnership below. The city of Chronhaven sprawls across the coastal cliffs like a mechanical organism. Brass towers catch the sunlight. Gear-driven lifts carry citizens between the various levels. Steam vents hiss at regular intervals, releasing pressure from the city's massive underground heating system. Chronhaven has always been a place where magic and machinery exist in uneasy cooperation, where artificers work alongside wizards, and where fortunes are made and lost on the cutting edge of innovation. Your attention is drawn to a figure making his way up the lighthouse steps. You recognize the gate before you, See the face. Torvin Ironwright, a dwarf artificer whose reputation for paranoia is exceeded only by his skill with clockwork mechanisms. He's breathing hard when he reaches the platform, his thick beard decorated with copper wire and tiny gears that click softly as he moves. His mechanical left eye whirs as it focuses on you, the lens adjusting with an audible precision. "Thank the Forge. You're here," he pants. "I need help. Real help. The kind that involves discretion and a complete disregard for conventional law." You exchange a glance with Sarah. "That's certainly your specialty. What's the job?" Torvin looks around nervously, even though you're 50 feet above the nearest person. They're building something that shouldn't exist. I've seen the blueprints, the components. They're smuggling them into the city piece by piece. "Who's they?" Sarah asks, her hand unconsciously moving to one of her vials. "The Consortium, specifically Lady Cassandra Gearhart and her inner circle." Torvin's mechanical eye clicks rapidly, a nervous tick you've noticed before. "I worked for them until 3 days ago. I was designing a clockwork servitor. Standard stuff. Maintenance automatons, cargo loaders, that sort of thing." He pulls a rolled parchment from his coat. "But then I found these, hidden in the secure vault. They're plans for something called the Conductor, a massive clockwork intelligence designed to control every mechanical system in the city simultaneously. The heating, the lifts, the water pumps, the defense mechanisms. Everything." Sarah takes the parchment and unrolls it carefully. Her expression darkens as she studies the technical drawings. "This is terrifying. With this level of control, whoever operates the Conductor could hold the entire city hostage. Cut off heat in winter, stop the water supply, and disable the defenses before an invasion." Torvin nods grimly. "Worse than that. See those inputs here? Those are designed to receive commands from biological patterns. Brainwave synchronization. Whoever builds this thing won't just control the city's machines. They will also control the city's people. They'll be able to predict and manipulate the population through infrastructure control. Subtle changes to heat levels affect mood. Precise timing of lift delays is causing social unrest in specific districts. It's social engineering through mechanical means. You study the plans more carefully. The scope is staggering. This would take enormous resources to build. How far along are they? "Nearly complete," Torvin says quietly. "The core components arrived 2 weeks ago. I estimate there may be 7 to 10 days from activation. Maybe less if they have the right artificers working around the clock. And you came to us because you already know the answer, but you want to hear him say it. Because the City Watch is compromised. Because half the council is on the consortium's payroll. Because every official channel I might use is either blocked or controlled by the very people I'm trying to stop." Torvin's organic eye meets yours, desperate and sincere. "I came to you because you're criminals. And right now, criminals are the only honest people in Chronhaven." Sarah carefully rolls up the blueprints. "What exactly are you asking us to do?" "Find where they're building the Conductor. Gather evidence that can't be ignored or suppressed. Stop the project before it goes active. Torvin reaches into his coat again and produces a heavy leather purse. I can offer 500 gold now, and another 1,000 when the job's done. Plus, whatever you can steal from the consortium's operation, you can keep. The offer is generous, but you've learned to be suspicious of generous offers. What's the catch? Torvin's expression becomes even grimmer. The Conductor is being built somewhere in the Undercity. The old district that was sealed off after the steam plague 50 years ago. The place where the sick were quarantined and forgotten. Where the machines continued to run long after the last humans had died. Nobody goes down there anymore. There are stories. Of course, there are stories, Sarah says dryly. Haunted mechanical nightmares, vengeful spirits, that sort of thing? Not quite. Torvin's mechanical eye stops clicking for a moment. The machines down there develop their own patterns. Emergent behaviors. Some artificers believe they achieved a form of collective consciousness. The consortium has somehow found a way to work down there. But it's dangerous, unpredictable. You lean back against the lighthouse railing, thinking, a conspiracy involving the city's most powerful merchants, a secret construction project in forbidden territory, and a device that could enslave an entire population. It's either the score of a lifetime or a quick path to a shallow grave. Sarah is watching you, waiting for your decision. She'll follow your lead on this, but you can see the concern in her eyes. This is bigger than your usual jobs, more dangerous, more complicated. But then again, that's never stopped you before. All right, you say finally. We'll take the job, but we do this our way. No interference, no second guessing. And if things go sideways, we extract immediately. Understood? Torvin nods eagerly. Understood. When can you start? You take the purse and feel its weight. Tonight, we'll need time to gather supplies and intelligence. Meet us at the Rusty Cog at midnight. Bring everything you have on the Undercity access points and consortium security protocols. The dwarf clasps your hand with surprising strength. Thank you. Truly, you might be the only chance this city has. After Torvin leaves, you and Sarah remain on the lighthouse platform, watching the sun begin its descent toward the western sea. The ships in the harbor look peaceful from up here, their true purpose hidden beneath their ordinary appearance. This is going to be complicated, Sarah observes. They always are. No. I mean really complicated. We're talking about infiltrating a forbidden zone controlled by rogue machines, stealing from the wealthiest and most powerful organization in the city, and exposing a conspiracy that reaches into the highest levels of government. Her amber eyes meet yours. This could get us killed. You grin. Or it could make us legends. Preferably both, she says. Ideally, the legend part would last longer than the killed part. That evening, you make your way through Chronhaven's merchant district, gathering the supplies you'll need for an extended expedition in a hostile territory. The shops are closing as the gas lamps flicker to life, their flames dancing behind protective glass. Your first stop is Mara's Marvelous Militaria, a cluttered shop that smells of oil and leather. Mara herself is an orc woman with a prosthetic arm that's better than the original, a marvel of artifice that responds to her thoughts with perfect precision. Heading somewhere dangerous? She asks as you browse her selection of climbing gear and reinforced leather armor. Aren't we always? She chuckles, a sound like gravel shifting. Fair point. You'll want this. She produces a coil of silk rope that shimmers with a faint magical aura. Featherweight, strong as a steel cable, and it glows in the dark. Useful if you're going somewhere with unreliable lighting. You take it, along with a set of lockpicks, a pry bar that folds down a pocket size, and a leather case containing a dozen glass vials for Sarah's alchemical preparations. Putting it on Torvin's tab, you say, passing over a promissory note the dwarf provided. Mara examines it and nods. His credit's good, though if he's hiring you to, something serious must be going on down there. Just a small matter of civic importance. She leans across the counter. Word of advice. Whatever you're planning, do it fast. There's been talk in the Artificers Guild. Big project in the works. Something that has people excited and scared in equal measure. You file that information away. How scared? The kind of scared where senior masters are quietly sending their families to the countryside. That kind of scared. Your second stop is less legitimate. The Broken Gear is a tavern in the lower levels of Chronhaven, where the city's criminal element gathers to conduct business away for watch patrols. The proprietor, a half-elf named Quinn, runs an information brokerage on the side. You find them in their usual corner booth, counting coins with fingers that move with practiced efficiency. They look up as you approach, green eyes sharp with intelligence. Well, the famous acquisition specialist. What brings you to my humble establishment? You slide into the booth across from them. Information, specifically about consortium movements over the past month. Shipments, personnel changes, anything unusual. Quinn's expression doesn't change, but you see their interest peak. That's a dangerous topic. The consortium doesn't appreciate people taking note of their business, which is why I'm willing to pay well for it. They consider this for a moment, then nod. 50 gold for what I know, and you didn't hear it from me. You count out the coins. Talk. Quinn leans in closer, voice dropping. 3 weeks ago, the consortium started hiring, not their usual merchant guards or bookkeepers. Specialists, artificers with experience in large-scale projects, miners who know how to work in hazardous conditions, and doctors, lots of doctors. Doctors? The kind who don't ask questions about where their patients came from or why they're injured. Quinn's fingers drum on the table. There have been accidents, workers disappearing. A few bodies are washing up in the harbor with burns that don't match any known industrial process. You absorb this information. Anything else? One more thing. 2 nights ago, someone tried to break into the consortium headquarters. Professional job. Very clean. They got past the first 3 security measures before the alarm went off. The watch showed up, but the intruder escaped. They leave something behind, though. This coin produces a small metal disc, no bigger than a coin. It's inscribed with complex patterns that hurt to look at directly. You recognize it immediately as a hacker's token, used by thieves and spies to bypass magical wards. Who does it belong to? That's the interesting part. The craftsmanship suggests it was made by someone trained in the Imperial Intelligence Service. But the Empire has no official operations in Chronhaven. So either someone's working freelance, or there's a bigger game being played here. You pocket the token. This is worth more than 50 gold. Quinn shrugs. Consider a favor. And a warning. Whatever you're getting into, you're not the only ones interested in the consortium. Be careful you don't end up as collateral damage in someone else's operation. Midnight finds you and Sarah in the Rusty Cog, a dive bar that caters to artificers and mechanics from the industrial district. The air is thick with the smell of machine oil and cheap ale. Torvin is already there, hunched over a table in the back, surrounded by rolled parchments and mechanical components. Punctual, he notes approvingly as you sit down. Did you have any trouble? Just the usual. You spread out the supplies you've acquired. We're ready to move. But firstly, I need to know more about these access points to the Undercity. Torvin unrolls a map of Chronhaven, but this one shows layers beneath the visible streets. The Undercity wasn't always forbidden. 50 years ago, it was just the lower industrial district. When the steam plague hit, it affected the poor first. The rich sealed off the lower levels to prevent the disease from spreading upward. His finger traces a route through the underground passages. Most of the old entrances were bricked up or collapsed, but there are 3 ways down that I know about. The first is through the old transit station on Foundry Street. It's guarded but lightly. The consortium maintains it as a supply route. Too obvious, Sarah says. If they're using it regularly, it'll be monitored and trapped. Torvin nods. The second option is through the storm drains. There's a maintenance tunnel that connects to the old water treatment facility. It's flooded in places, and the structural integrity is questionable, but it's mostly forgotten. Mostly? You ask. Well, there are stories of things living in the flooded sections. But stories are just stories. Probably. You exchange a look with Sarah. She mouths the word probably with obvious skepticism. And the third option? The third is complicated. Torvin's mechanical, I whirs uncomfortably. There's a vertical shaft in the old clock tower district. Part of the original pneumatic tube system that connected different levels of the city. It's a straight drop of 200 feet, but there are maintenance rungs built into the walls. And at the bottom, you emerge directly into the industrial heart of the Undercity, which means if the consortium is building the Conductor, you'd be close to the most likely construction site. But it also means you'd be deep in dangerous territory with no easy escape route. You study the map carefully. The clock tower route is dangerous, but it offers the best strategic advantage. And from what you've learned, time is critical. We're going tonight, down the clock tower shaft. Torvin looks relieved and terrified in equal measure. I was hoping you'd say that. Actually, I was hoping you'd say the transit station, but I'll take what I can get. He produces a leather satchel. These are for your communication crystals. They're short range, but they'll let us stay in contact even through the interference from all the machinery down there. You examine the crystals. They're beautifully crafted, pulsing with a soft blue light. How do they work? Speak into it, and I'll hear you through its paired twin. They work both ways. If you get into trouble, call, and I'll do what I can to help. Which, admittedly, won't be much from up here, but at least you can curse my name one last time before you die. Sarah laughs despite herself. I like your optimism. I'm an artificer. Pessimism is built into our training. The clock tower district is quiet when you arrive an hour later. The area has fallen into genteel decline, its grand buildings now subdivided into apartments for mid-level clerks and artisans. The old clock tower itself stands dark and silent. Its mechanism stopped decades ago when the funding for maintenance ran out. Getting inside is trivial. The front door's lock is rusted and weak, yielding to your picks in seconds. Inside, the tower is a hollow shell. Moonlight streams through broken windows, illuminating a vast open space filled with the skeletal remains of the great clock mechanism. The pneumatic shaft is where Torvin said it would be, hidden behind a maintenance panel. You pry it open to reveal a circular opening barely 3 feet in diameter. A rusty ladder descends into darkness, so your eyes can't penetrate it. Sarah drops a light stone down the shaft. You both watch it fall, counting seconds. 8, 9, 10, 11. Finally, a distant splash of light marks the bottom. 200 feet was an underestimate, Sarah observes. You pull out the magical rope from Mara's shop and secure it to a solid support beam. The rope's enchantment makes it glow softly, providing a guideline through the darkness. Then you secure your pack, check your weapons, and begin your descent. The climb down takes nearly 20 minutes. Your arms burn with exertion by the time your feet touch solid ground. Sarah lands beside you a moment later, breathing hard. You're in a corridor that might once have been part of a pneumatic delivery system. Huge pipes run along the walls, some broken and leaking steam. The air is hot and humid, making it hard to breathe. More concerning are the sounds. Clicking, whirring, the distant groan of metal under stress. And underneath it all, a rhythmic pulse like a massive heartbeat. The machines, Sarah whispers, they're still running. You pull out Torvin's map and orient yourself. According to this, we should head east. There's a main thoroughfare that runs through the old industrial district. If they're building something big, it'll be near the power distribution center. The two of you move carefully through the Undercity, every sense alert for danger. The architecture is strange. Here, a mix of functional industrial design and organic adaptation. Pipes have been rerouted by unknown hands, or perhaps no hands at all. Cables snake across walls in patterns that suggest purpose, but defy the obvious explanation. You pass through a chamber filled with what appear to be looms. their shuttles still flying back and forth despite the absence of any thread or fabric. The sound is hypnotic and unsettling. "Stop!" Sarah hisses suddenly. You freeze. Ahead, something moves in the shadows. It emerges into the dim light cast by bioluminescent fungi growing from the walls. It's a mechanical spider, but wrong. Cobbled together from parts that were never meant to work together. Clock gears for joints, pressure gauges for eyes, and legs made from braided copper wire. It sees you. The pressure gauges focus, needles spinning. For a long moment, nothing happens. Then it turns and scurries away into the darkness. "That was unexpected," you mutter. "The things down here have their own society." Torben tried to explain it, but I don't think he fully understands it either. They're not hostile by default. They're just living their own lives. You continue deeper, and the evidence of this strange mechanical ecosystem becomes more apparent. Smaller automatons scurry about on unknown errands. Larger constructs stand dormant in alcoves, like statues in a mechanical cathedral. Some of the machines are decorated with found objects, shiny bits of metal, colored glass, arrangements of wire that might be art or might be functional. It's impossible to tell. After an hour of careful progress, you hear voices, human voices. You signal Sarah to stop and creep forward to investigate through a broken grating. You can see into a vast chamber below, and what you see makes your blood run cold. The space is enormous, easily the size of Chronhaven's main plaza, and at its center, rising like some unholy, the mechanical cathedral is the Conductor. It's both beautiful and terrible, brass and iron formed into intricate patterns that suggest neural networks. Crystal matrices pulse with captured lightning. At its heart, a spherical chamber of glass and gold, clearly designed to house a human operator. Around it, dozens of workers toil under the supervision of figures in the distinctive red and gold uniforms of the consortium. You recognize some of them from one of posters. Mercenaries, enforcers, dangerous people doing dangerous work. But what chills you most is the figure overseeing it all from a raised platform. Lady Cassandra Gearhart herself. You've seen her portraits in the newspapers, but they don't capture the calculating intelligence in her eyes or the cold certainty of her posture. She's a woman who has never doubted her right to reshape the world according to her vision. Sarah taps your shoulder and points to a side passage. We need to find evidence, something we can take to the authorities. You nod and follow her lead. The passage brings you to what appears to be an administrative area. Offices, file rooms, and living quarters for the workers. It's a strange contrast to the mechanical chaos outside. Here, everything is organized, efficient, and bureaucratic. Sarah begins photographing documents with a crystal recording device while she searches for anything in particular damning. It doesn't take long. In the third office you search, you find a ledger detailing payments to city watch captains, council members, and various officials. Bribes, all carefully documented. Even better, You find a presentation folio marked Project Conductor, Phase 2 Implementation. The document's inside outline plans for after the device goes active. Infrastructure control, population management protocols, and plans for expansion to other cities. It's all here, carefully written out like any other business proposal. This is it you breathe. This is enough to bring them down. Assuming we can get it out of here, Sarah reminds you. That's when the alarm sounds. It's not a loud, blaring siren, but something worse. A subtle harmonic tone that seems to resonate through every pipe and cable in the Undercity. And immediately, you feel the change in the atmosphere. The ambient mechanical noises that had been random and purposeless suddenly became coordinated. Focused. We've been detected, Sarah says unnecessarily. You grab the evidence and run. Behind you, you hear the sound of dozens, maybe hundreds of mechanical entities converging on your position. Not the small scavenger constructs you saw earlier, but something else. Purpose-built security systems are awakening from long dormancy. The corridor ahead is suddenly blocked by a wall of interlocking metal plates that slam down from the ceiling. You skid to a stop and reverse direction, only to find another barrier rising from the floor behind you. You're boxed in. The wall. Sarah points to a section where the panels haven't quite sealed properly. There's a gap, maybe 2 feet high. You can fit through if you're quick. You dive for the opening just as articulated mechanical arms emerge from the walls, grasping for you with pincers and manipulators. One catches your ankle, but you kick free and roll through to the other side. Sarah throws a vial back through the gap. It explodes in a flash of brilliant light and billowing smoke, buying you a few seconds. The two of you run through a maze of passages, the evidence clutched tight to your chest. Behind you, the sounds of pursuit grow louder and more organized. These aren't random machines. They're being coordinated, directed by something with intelligence and purpose. The Conductor. You gasp as you run. It's already partially active. They're using it to control the local systems. Then we need to shut it down, Sarah responds. Because otherwise, we're not making it out of here alive. You pull out the communication crystal. Torvin, we need an extraction plan. Now, the crystal crackles. The dwarf's voice comes through, distorted but clear. I'm tracking your position. You're 300 yards from the main construction chamber. There's a power junction between you and it. If you can overload that junction, it'll cascade through the system and force an emergency shutdown. What about the Conductor? Will it survive? Probably, but it'll buy you time to escape. The junction is marked on your map. 2 corridors north, then east to the primary power substation. You check the map while running. Got it. Sarah, we're making a detour. She doesn't question, just follows your lead as you navigate through the mechanical labyrinth. The power substation is exactly where Torvin said it would be. A vast room filled with transformers and switch boxes, all connected by thick cables that pulse with electrical current. This is going to be loud, Sarah warns as she begins pulling vials from her bandolier. She combines 3 different compounds in a careful sequence. When this blows, run. Don't look back. Don't slow down, just run. She sets the improvised explosive device at the base of the largest transformer, then activates a delay mechanism. 30 seconds. You don't need to be told twice. The 2 of you sprint out of the substation and down the corridor. Behind you, you hear the mechanical pursuers getting closer. 20 seconds. A spider construct rounds the corner ahead, blocking your path. Sarah throws another vial, this one filled with corrosive acid that eats through the construct's legs, sending it crashing to the floor. 10 seconds. The corridor opens into a larger space. You can see the main construction chamber ahead and above it, a maintenance gantry that might provide escape. 5 seconds. You reach the gantry stairs and start climbing. 3, 2, 1. The explosion is everything Sarah promised and more. A thunderous detonation followed by a cascading series of secondary explosions as the overload ripples through the electrical system. Lightning arcs between metal surfaces. The lights go out, plunging the Undercity into darkness, broken only by the spark and flash of short circuits. Circuiting systems. In that chaos, you and Sarah make your escape. The maintenance gantry leads to a service tunnel that rises at a steep angle. You climb through smoke and darkness, guided only by the faint glow of the rope spell you laid earlier. Behind you, you can hear voices shouting in confusion and anger. Lady Gearhart's voice rises above the others, commanding and furious. Find them. I want them found, and I want them dead. You climb faster. It takes an hour to reach the surface. When you finally emerge into the cool night air of Chronhaven, you both collapse on the cobblestones, gasping. You're covered in grime and soot, bleeding from a dozen minor wounds, but alive. And more importantly, you have the evidence clutched in your pack. Torvin appears out of the shadows, his mechanical eye glowing with concern. Did you get it? The proof? You hand him the documents and the crystal recordings. Everything you need to take to the authorities. Payment schedules, construction plans, and population control protocols. It's all there. The dwarf's hands shake as he examines the materials. This is it. This is actually it. He looks up at you with something like awe. Do you realize what you've done? You've saved the city. Not yet, Sarah says grimly. We've gathered evidence. Now I need to make sure it reaches people who can act on it. The council meets tomorrow afternoon, Torvin says. I know some members who aren't on the consortium's payroll. If I can get this to them before the session, we can force an emergency investigation. You shake your head. Too risky. Gearhart will know we escaped. She'll be working to consolidate her position, call in favors, and threaten anyone who might speak against her. We need something more public, something she can't suppress. Sarah's eyes light up with understanding. The press. The Chronicle is always looking for scandals involving the consortium. If we leak this to them, it'll be on the streets by tomorrow morning. Too widespread to suppress. Torvin nods slowly. I know someone there. A journalist who's been trying to expose consortium corruption for years. She'll jump at this. Then that's our play, you decide. We got this to the press. Let them break the story and watch Gearhart's empire crumble under the weight of public outrage. The next morning, you're awakened by the sound of newsboys shouting in the streets. Consortium conspiracy exposed. City officials implicated in plot to control population. You buy a copy of the Chronicle and read it with growing satisfaction. The journalist Torvin has contacted. Excellent work. The story lays out the entire conspiracy in detail, complete with reproductions of the most damning documents. There are quotes from artificers confirming the technical details and statements from workers who escaped the Undercity project. Even a woodcut illustration of the Conductor based on your descriptions. By noon, there are protests in streets, citizens demanding investigations, officials scrambling to distance themselves from the consortium, and watch captains are being questioned about the bribes they received. The scandal is too big to contain, spreading through Chronhaven like wildfire. You meet Sarah and Torvin at a cafe overlooking the central plaza. Below, you can see the crowd gathering outside the council building, demanding answers. They're calling for Gearhart's arrest, Sarah observes, sipping tea with obvious satisfaction. The council is an emergency session. Some members are already resigning. Torvin slides a heavy purse across the table. The remaining 1,000 gold, as promised, plus a bit extra. You've earned it. You take the payment, but find yourself looking at the crowd below. Something feels off. Too easy. Gearhart is a survivor. She wouldn't go down without a fight. That's when you see it. A squadron of consortium guards is moving through the crowd with deliberate purpose. And at their head, cutting through the protesters like a knife, is Lady Cassandra Gearhart herself. She doesn't look defeated. She looks determined. The three of you watch as she climbs the council building steps and turns to address the crowd. Her voice carries across the plaza, amplified by some artifice. Citizens of Chronhaven, I stand before you accused of terrible crimes. And I tell you plainly, the accusations are true. A shocked murmur runs through the crowd. You lean forward, trying to understand what she's doing. I did commission the Conductor. I did funnel resources into its construction. I did plan to use it to control the city's infrastructure. And do you know why? Because this city is dying. She gestures broadly at the buildings around her. Look at Chronhaven. Really look at it. Our systems are 50 years old and failing. Our population has doubled while our infrastructure has crumbled. We face water shortages, power outages, and structural collapses. The council has debated these problems for years and has done nothing. More murmurs, less hostile now. You feel a sinking sensation in your stomach. I saw a solution, Gearhart continues. A way to optimize every system, eliminate waste, and coordinate resources with perfect efficiency. Yes, it would have given me power, but it would have saved lives, prevented the slow collapse that every artificer and engineer in this city can see coming. She pulls out a document. This is a report from the city's chief engineer. Classified. Suppressed by the council because it's too frightening to share with you. It predicts total infrastructure failure within 5 years. 5 years. And the council's solution? Hope for a miracle and avoid difficult decisions. The crowd is wavering now. You can see it in their postures, hear it in their voices. The righteous anger is giving way to uncertainty. I made mistakes, Gearhart admits. I worked in secret. I bribed officials who should have been helping freely. I'm willing to face consequences for those choices. But ask yourselves, who is the real villain here? Me, for trying to solve an impossible problem? Or the council, for letting that problem fester while they squabble over budgets and pride? It's a masterful performance. She's taking the scandal and reframing it as a heroic necessity, presenting herself as the only person willing to make hard choices while the established powers do nothing. And it's working. You can see support building in the crowd. People nodding, calling out an agreement. The narrative is shifting before your eyes. She's turning this around, Sarah says aghast. She's actually going to win. Torvin's mechanical eye spins frantically. The engineers report. I've heard rumors about it. If it's real, if the infrastructure really is on the brink of failure, then maybe Gearhart was right. You finish quietly. Maybe her methods were wrong, but her diagnosis was accurate. Below, the crowd's mood has completely changed. Now they're shouting for the council to answer Gearhart's accusations, demanding to see the suppressed report, calling for solutions instead of scandals. By evening, the political landscape has shifted dramatically. The council is forced to release the engineer's report, confirming Gearhart's claims about the infrastructure crisis. Several council members resign in disgrace, and Gearhart, despite her admitted crimes, is offered a position as special counsel on infrastructure modernization. She accepts with grace, promising transparency and public oversight this time. The Conductor project is officially canceled, but she's given resources to develop alternative solutions. Somehow, she's emerged from the scandal more powerful than before. You and Sarah watch the sunset from the Lighthouse platform, the same place where this all began. We did stop the Conductor, Sarah says. That was the mission, and we exposed corruption in the process. But Gearhart won, you point out. She turned a conspiracy into a political triumph. Did she, though? Sarah tilts her head thoughtfully. Yes, she has more power, but now she's operating in the open, subject to oversight and public scrutiny. We changed the game, made it impossible for her to work in the shadows. That's nothing. Maybe. You're still not sure how to feel about the outcome. Torvin appears at the top of the lighthouse stairs, slightly out of breath. I thought you should know. The council is establishing a public commission to oversee infrastructure development. They're asking for artificers and engineers to volunteer, independent voices to balance against the consortium's influence. He pauses. They asked me to join, and I said yes. Because of you two, you show me the way to fight. Corruption isn't just about exposing it. It's to offer something better. to be part of the solution. You consider this. Maybe that's the real victory. Not bringing down Gearhart, but creating a system where she can't operate unchecked. Making change possible through legitimate channels instead of desperate conspiracies. So what's next for you two? Torvin asks. You look at Sarah, who shrugs with a slight smile. We take a vacation, you say. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere without conspiracies or mechanical nightmares or corrupt merchants. Sarah laughs. You'll be bored within a week. Probably. But it'll be a nice week. 3 days later, you're preparing to leave Chronhaven when a messenger arrives at your lodgings. It's a young woman in the livery of a merchant house, not the consortium. She hands you a sealed letter with obvious nervousness. I was told to deliver this privately, and to wait for no response. She hurries away before you can ask questions. You break the seal and read the contents. The handwriting is elegant, precise. To the thieves who stopped the conductor, well played. You cost me months of work and considerable resources, but you also taught me a valuable lesson about underestimating street-level opposition. Consider that your debt is paid in full. You may keep your lives and your gold, but know this, we will meet again, and next time, I'll be better prepared. You show the letter to Sarah, who reads it with a frown. Is that supposed to be reassuring or threatening? Both, probably. You burn the letter in a candle flame. She's acknowledging us as equals. In a twisted way, that's almost a compliment. A compliment I could do without, Sarah mutters. Come on, our coach leaves in an hour. The journey south takes you through countryside that grows progressively warmer as you leave the coastal area mountains behind. Your destination is a small town called Riverside, known for its hot springs and complete lack of political intrigue. Sarah has rented a cottage there for a month, using her share of Torvin's payment. It's exactly what you both need. Simple days spent reading, swimming, and recovering from the physical and mental strain of the past weeks. The most complicated decision you face is whether to have fish or chicken for dinner. But on the third day, you notice something odd. A stranger in the tavern, watching you with too much interest. He's trying to be subtle, but you've spent years learning to spot surveillance. When he leaves, you follow at a distance. He meets with 2 others in an alley behind the inn. You can't hear their conversation, but you catch fragments. Confirmed it's them. The ones from Chronhaven. She wants them watched, not approached. You return to the cottage and tell Sarah what you've seen. Gearhart, she says immediately. She's keeping tabs on us. Makes sense. We're loose ends. Unpredictable variables. She doesn't like those. So much for a quiet vacation. You both laugh, though there's an edge to it. The truth is, you knew it wouldn't last. People like you don't get to retire quietly. There's always another job, another conspiracy, another threat to uncover. But for now, for this moment, you have this. A cottage by a river, a friend you trust, and the satisfaction of knowing that, whatever Gearhart's plans are, you'll be ready when they come to fruition. 2 weeks into your vacation, the situation takes an unexpected turn. You're at the local market when you spot a familiar face. Quinn, the information broker from Chronhaven. They're dressed in traveling clothes, doing a poor job of pretending to shop for vegetables. You approach casually, a long way from the broken gear. Quinn doesn't look surprised to see you. I prefer to think of it as expanding my business opportunities. This is a nice town. Quiet. Good place to lie low for a while. Running from something. More like running towards something. Quinn glances around to make sure no one's listening. That token I showed you. The one with imperial markings. I did some digging after you left. Turns out it belongs to a very interesting person. Someone who's been tracking the consortium's activities for months. You feel your interest pique despite yourself. Go on. Her name is Commander Lissa Darkwada, Imperial Intelligence, though officially she's on extended leave. Unofficially, she's investigating something big, something that involves not just Chronhaven, but multiple cities across the region. The Conductor was just one piece of a much larger operation. You process this. How much larger? Quinn produces a map from their code. See these cities? Iron Haven, Port Merchant, Clockwork Bay, and 6 others. They've all seen similar patterns. Mysterious construction projects. Sudden influxes of consortium resources. Local officials are being bribed or intimidated. It's coordinated. Someone is building something across the entire coastal region. What kind of something? That's what Commander Darkwada is trying to find out. And she wants to meet you. You exchange a glance with Sarah, who has appeared beside you without making a sound. She must have been watching the interaction. Why us? Sarah asks. Because you shut down the Conductor without killing anyone or causing permanent damage. Because you proved you can work in the shadows without becoming part of them. And because she needs help from people. The consortium doesn't know about it. Quinn's expression is serious. She's staying at an inn 2 towns over. The Silver Swan. She'll be there for 3 more days. After Quinn leaves, you and Sarah walk back to your cottage in silence. The peaceful vacation suddenly feels very far away. We could ignore this. Sarah says finally. We could finish our month here, then find work somewhere else. Somewhere far from Gearhart and the consortium and Imperial intelligence officers. We could, you agree, but we won't. No, we won't. She sighs. I knew you were going to say that. You knew you were going to agree. Fair point. She looks at you with those amber eyes that have seen too much for someone her age. What do you think this is really about? This larger operation Quinn mentioned. I don't know. But if it's connected to the Conductor, if it's something that threatens entire cities, you trail off, thinking about Lady Gearhart's speech in the plaza. Her talk of infrastructure failure and necessary evils. Maybe she wasn't just covering her tracks. Maybe she was preparing people for something. For what? That's what we need to find out. The next morning, you pack your things and head for the Silver Swan. The inn is exactly what you'd expect from its name. Elegantly appointed, discreet, and expensive. The kind of place where wealthy travelers stay when they want privacy. Commander Lissa Darkwada is in a private dining room, reviewing documents spread across a large table. She looks up as you enter, and you're struck by her presence. She's tall, dark-skinned, with silver hair cut in a military style. Her eyes are the pale blue of Arctic ice, and they assess you with professional thoroughness. "You're younger than I expected," she says without preamble. "But Quinn vouches for you, and Quinn is rarely wrong about people. You help yourself to our vacation," you reply. "This had better be important." A slight smile crosses her face. Direct. "I appreciate that. Please sit. We have much to discuss and a limited time." Once you're seated, she spreads out the map Quinn showed you. But this one has more detail, more annotations, more connections are drawn between cities. "What do you know about the consortium's origins?" she asks. "Merchant Collective," Sarah answers. "Formed 30 years ago when independent traders realized they could wield more influence by working together. Now, they control most of the coastal trade and have their fingers in everything from shipping to manufacturing." But incomplete. Darkwater taps the map. "The consortium was founded by 7 merchants. Over the years, 6 of them have died or retired. Lady Cassandra Gearhart is the sole remaining original founder, and in the past 5 years, she has quietly consolidated control over all consortium operations." "That's not illegal," you point out. "Ruthless, maybe, but not criminal." "No, but this is." Darkwater produces a thick file. "These are reports from my network. Intelligence gathered across 9 cities. The pattern is clear. Wherever the consortium establishes a major presence, infrastructure begins to fail. Water systems develop leaks. Power grids become unstable. Transportation networks experience mysterious breakdowns." "Sounds like normal urban decay," Sarah observes. "That's what I thought at first. But the failures are too consistent, too specifically timed, and they always happen just before the consortium offers a solution. A new water treatment facility that they had designed, a power system that they can install at a discounted rate, an exclusive contract to maintain transportation infrastructure. You see where this is going. They're creating the problems they claim to solve." "Exactly." Darkwater's expression is grim. "The Conductor in Chronhaven was just the most ambitious version of this scheme. A way to control not just one system, but all of them simultaneously. To make the city completely dependent on consortium management. But we stopped it, you say. The project was canceled. Was it?" Darkwater pulls out another document. "This is a shipping manifest from 3 days ago. Consortium vessel departing Chronhaven. Destination, Port Merchant. Cargo listed as industrial equipment, but the weight and volume specifications match components for a large-scale control system." Your blood runs cold. They're building another conductor, or finishing the one they started. Darkwater leans forward. "I believe the Chronhaven device was a prototype test, and now that they've learned from its exposure, they're building the real thing elsewhere. Somewhere with better security and less oversight." "Why Port Merchant?" Sarah asks. Darkwater points to the city on the map. "It's the largest port on the coast. Controls shipping for the entire region. If you could control Port Merchant's infrastructure, you could affect trade across a dozen kingdoms. It would give you economic leverage over half the continent. You study the map, thinking through the implications. This isn't just about controlling cities anymore. This is about reshaping the entire regional power structure, making the consortium indispensable, making Gearheart indispensable. What do you want from us? You ask. I need people who can infiltrate Port Merchant and locate the Conductor project. People who can gather evidence without triggering alarms or alerts. People who understand how the consortium operates. Darkwater meets your eyes. I need you to do what you did in Chronhaven, but better, faster, before the device goes active. And if we refuse, then I'll find someone else. But they probably won't succeed. And within a year, every major city on the coast will be under consortium control. Your children, if you have them, will grow up in a world where a single organization dictates how they live, work, and think, all through the invisible manipulation of infrastructure. Sarah looks at you. Your call. You think about Lady Gearhart's speech, her talk of necessary evils and hard choices, her transformation of scandal into political triumph. She's brilliant, ruthless, and absolutely convinced she's right. That makes her more dangerous than any simple villain. What's the pay? You ask. Darkwater smiles. 2,000 gold each, plus access to imperial resources and intelligence. And my personal guarantee that if you're caught, we'll extract you. No one gets left behind. You look at Sarah, who nods slightly. We're in, you say, but we do this our way. No interference, no second guessing. You provide information and support, and we handle the operation. Agreed. Darkwater extends her hand. Welcome to the war against the consortium. The journey to Port Merchant takes 4 days by coach. Darkwater provides you with new identities, forged documents, and a contact within the city who can provide safe housing and local intelligence. Port Merchant is larger than Chronhaven, more diverse, more chaotic. The harbor is packed with ships from every kingdom and merchant house. The streets are a maze of markets, warehouses, and shipyards. The air smells of salt, fish, and opportunity. Your contact is a dock worker named Marcus, a gray-haired man with hands like leather and eyes that have seen everything twice. He meets you at a tavern near the water, barely glancing at you before leading you to a basement room beneath a shipping company office. Consortium has been here for 2 years, he says, spreading out a map of the city. Started small, bought a few warehouses, hired local workers. Then they started acquiring infrastructure contracts, water, power, sanitation. Now they're in everything. Have there been failures? System breakdowns? Sarah asks. Oh yeah, started about 6 months ago. Small things at first, then bigger. Last month, half the upper district lost water for 3 days. Consortium swooped in with a temporary solution, then convinced the council to give them the contract to rebuild the whole system, and the council agreed. Marcus snorts. Half the council members are on the consortium payroll. The other half are too scared or stupid to push back. It's Chronhaven all over again, just slower and more careful. You study the map. Any idea where they might be building something big, something secret? Marcus taps a location on the harbor's edge. Old Navy shipyard. Been abandoned for 15 years since the fleet moved to deeper waters. The consortium bought it 8 months ago. Said they were going to turn it into a merchant facility. But they've been really secretive about it. Heavy security. No local workers allowed inside. Everything was brought in by their own people. That's our target, you say. Marcus looks uncomfortable. You should know there have been disappearances. Workers who got too curious. Journalists who asked too many questions. 3 people in the last 2 months. No bodies, no evidence, just gone. Noted. You make a mental note to be extra careful. Sarah speaks up. We'll need detailed information on the shipyard. Layout, security rotations, access points. Can you get that? I can try, but it'll take time, and it'll cost. You count out gold coins. Whatever you need. We're on a deadline. Marcus pockets the coins. Give me 3 days. In the meantime, you and Sarah conduct your own reconnaissance. You watch the shipyard from a distance, noting patterns of activity. Consortium guards patrol the perimeter in pairs, rotating every 4 hours. Supply. Shipments arrive twice daily, always heavily guarded. Whatever they're building, it's being done in complete secrecy. On the second night, you spot something interesting. A small boat approaches the shipyard from the water side, moving without lights. It docks briefly, and 2 figures disembark. They're escorted inside by guards who seem to be expecting them. Late-night visitors. You murmur to Sarah. Important ones, given the reception. Can you see who they are? You pull out your spyglass and focus on the retreating figures. One is tall and thin, moving with the care and precision of a scholar or artificer. The other is shorter, more muscular, with the bearing of a soldier guard. Before they disappear inside, the taller figure turns slightly, and moonlight catches their face. You recognize them immediately. Torvin, you breathe. What in the hells is Torvin doing here? Sarah takes the spyglass and confirms your observation. You're right. But why? He helped us stop the Conductor in Chronhaven. Why would he be involved with a new project? Maybe he's not involved. Maybe he's investigating, like us. Or maybe, Sarah says slowly, he played us. Made us think we were stopping the project when we were just helping him identify security weaknesses. Getting rid of political obstacles that stood in the way of the real operation. You don't want to believe it, but the possibility nags at you. Torvin's paranoia, his detailed knowledge of the project, and his convenient arrival with information and funding. It all made sense if he was genuinely fighting the consortium. But it would make just as much sense if you were working for them. We need to confront him. You decide. How? We don't know where he's staying or when he'll surface again. Then we go in. Tonight. Through the water approach. We find out what's really going on in that shipyard. Sarah considers this. That's risky. We don't know the interior layout, the security systems, or what we're walking into, which is why we're not walking. We're swimming. An hour later, you're both in dark clothing suitable for swimming, your weapons and tools sealed in waterproof bags. The harbor water is cold and filthy, but you've swum through worse. You approach the shipyard from the north, where the patrol gaps are longest. The shipyard's water gate is locked, but not heavily reinforced. Sarah's acid vials make quick work of the chains, and you slip inside, pulling yourselves onto a loading dock inside. The shipyard is a hive of activity despite the late hour. Work crews operate under bright artificial lights, assembling something massive in the main construction bay. You move through shadows, trying to get a better view. What you see takes your breath away. It's not a conductor. It's something far more ambitious. A massive mechanical construct that combines elements of a ship, a building, and a living organism. Brass and iron formed into organic curves. Crystal matrices of the size of carriages pulsing with stored energy. And at its heart, not a single operator chamber, but dozens. The crew could operate this thing. That's not a control system, Sarah whispers. That's a mobile fortress. You're trying to process the implications when a familiar voice speaks behind you. Impressive, isn't it? Torvin steps out of the shadows, his mechanical eye whirring as it focuses on you. I told Gearhart you'd find your way here eventually. You're nothing if not persistent. You turn slowly, hand moving toward your weapon. So you were working for her all along. Working for her? No. Torvin laughs bitterly. Working with her. There's a difference. She has the resources and vision. I have the technical expertise. Together, we're building something that will change the world. By saving it. Torvin's expression is passionate, almost desperate. You saw the infrastructure report. You know the truth. Our cities are dying. Within a generation, half the population centers on the continent will be uninhabitable. Not because of war or plague, but because the systems we depend on are failing. So you built this? You gesture at the massive construct. What is it? The Leviathan. A mobile infrastructure core. It can move from city to city, providing water, power, and climate control. It can rebuild failing systems in weeks instead of years. It can save millions of lives. At what cost? The same cost as always. Freedom for security. Chaos for order. Torvin's mechanical eye stops whirring, fixed on you with disturbing intensity. You think I'm a villain, but I'm just an artificer who looked at the numbers and realized that without intervention, civilization, as we know it, ends within our lifetime. I'm not enslaving people. I'm giving them a chance to survive. Alarms begin to sound. More guards pour into the construction bay. You and Sarah are surrounded by weapons drawn against you from every direction. I'm sorry it has to end this way, Torvin says. I genuinely like you both, but you're too dangerous to leave free. You don't understand what's at stake. Then explain it, you say, stalling for time while your mind races through escape options. Make us understand. Torvin signals the guards to hold. Very well. You've earned that much. He leads you to a viewing platform overlooking the Leviathan. From here, you can see its full scope. It's magnificent and terrifying in equal measure. The consortium didn't start as a plot to control cities, Torvin explains. It started as a solution to a problem that governments wouldn't acknowledge. Infrastructure collapse, climate change, resource depletion. Lady Gearhart saw it coming 30 years ago. She tried to work within the system. Proposed reforms offered technical solutions, begged officials to take action, and they refused. You guess worse. They ignored her, dismissed her concerns as alarmist, told her that markets would solve the problem or that technology would provide answers. So she took matters into her own hands, built the consortium, acquired resources, and developed solutions, all in preparation for the collapse she knew was coming. The Conductor was supposed to be her masterpiece, a way to optimize cities so efficiently that they could survive the coming crisis. But you destroyed it, set her back years, forced her to develop a new approach. He gestures at the Leviathan. This is that approach. Instead of trying to save every city, we save the ones that matter. The ones that accept consortium management. The others, well, natural selection applies to civilizations as much as individuals. You're talking about letting cities die, Sarah says, horrified. I'm talking about Tria, about making hard choices because the alternative is everyone dying. Torvin's voice rises with passion. You think you're heroes, but you're obstacles. You stopped a solution because it wasn't perfect, because it came with costs you weren't willing to accept. Well, guess what? Every solution has costs, and the cost of doing nothing is extinction. The speech is powerful, disturbing, and uncomfortably logical. You can see how Torvin has justified his actions to himself, how Gearhart has built an entire organization around this philosophy of necessary evil. But you've also learned something crucial. The Leviathan isn't operational yet. It's being built, which means it can still be stopped. Sarah must be thinking the same thing because she catches your eye and nods almost imperceptibly. You both know what needs to happen. I understand now, you say to Torvin. Thank you for explaining. Then you'll surrender? Join us. We could use people with your skills. No. You draw your weapon in one smooth motion. We'll stop you. Like, we stopped the Conductor. What happens next is chaos. Sarah throws a smoke vial that explodes in a cloud of thick gray fog. You dive off the viewing platform, hitting a rope line, and sliding down toward the construction floor. Crossbow bolts and bullets fill the air where you've been standing. You land hard, roll, and come up running. Sarah is right behind you, throwing more vials to create barriers of fire and chemical fog. The guards are trying to pursue, but the smoke and flames have created confusion. The Leviathan looms before you, massive and incomplete. You can see its power cores and the vulnerable crystal, matrices that provide its energy. If you can overload those. Sarah, the cores, can you bring them down? She's already pulling out vials, combining compounds with practice speed. This is going to be bigger than last time. Much bigger. We need to evacuate the workers first. No time. You spot Torvin on the upper level, shouting orders to his guards. If we don't stop this now, it'll be operational within days. Sarah hesitates, torn between preventing casualties and preventing catastrophe. Then she makes her decision, the same one you knew she'd make. The hard one gets to the exit. 30 seconds after I set this, nothing survives in here. You grab her arm. We go together. She smiles, fierce and beautiful. Always you fight your way toward the exit, Sarah throwing vials to create chaos and cover. Guards fall back, unwilling to risk getting caught in her chemical explosions. You reach the water gate just as Sarah sets her explosive device at the base of the largest power core. 25 seconds. You dive into the harbor water together, swimming hard away from the shipyard. Behind you, you can hear shouts of alarm as workers realize what's about to happen. Some are jumping into the water. Others are running for land exits. 20 seconds. You're 50 yards out when the device detonates. The explosion is beyond anything Sarah has created before. The power cores overload in a cascading chain reaction, releasing energy that had been building for months. The Leviathan doesn't just break apart. It vaporizes. The shockwave hits you underwater, tumbling you through the murky depths. Your lungs burn. Your vision fills with bubbles and debris. For a moment, you think you're going to drown. Then, hands grab you, pull you up. You break the surface, gasping, to find Sarah supporting you. Behind her, the shipyard is an inferno. The Leviathan is gone. The construction bay has collapsed. Whatever survived the explosion is now being consumed by fire. Did we kill them? Sarah's voice is shaken. All those workers. You look at the scene, try to count figures in the water. There are swimmers, survivors. Not as many as there should be, but some. The evacuation, panicked as it was, saved some lives. But not all. You both know that. This victory has a body count. You swim to shore and collapse on a dock, watching the shipyard burn. Marcus finds you there an hour later, wrapped in borrowed blankets and shaking from cold and reaction. What happened? He demands. We stopped it, you say simply. The Leviathan. It's destroyed. Marcus looks at the burning shipyard, then back at you. The whole city's going to feel this. The consortium had workers, contracts, connections everywhere. This is going to cause chaos. Better chaos than control. Commander Darkwater arrives the next morning with a contingent of Imperial agents. She surveys the damage with professional detachment, then turns to you and Sarah. Messy, she observes, but effective. The consortium's presence in Port Merchant is broken. Without the Leviathan, they can't enforce their infrastructure monopoly. This city is free again. At what cost? Sarah asks quietly. Darkwater's expression softens slightly. Less than if you'd done nothing. The casualties from tonight will be counted in dozens. The casualties from consortium control would have been counted in thousands over the coming years. You made the right choice. The hard choice. You're not sure you believe that, but you nod anyway. What about Torvin? Did he survive? Unknown. We found no body, but in that inferno, that doesn't mean much. Darkwater pauses. There's something you should know. We've been interrogating captured consortium personnel. According to them, there are 3. More Leviathans are under construction in 3 different cities. Port Merchant was just the first. Your exhaustion evaporates, replaced by cold dread. 3 more. This is bigger than we thought. Bigger than infrastructure control or economic leverage. Lady Gearhart is preparing for something. A collapse she believes is imminent, and she's building a fleet of mobile fortress cities to survive it. Is she right? You ask. Is the collapse coming? Darkwater is quiet for a long moment. I don't know. The intelligence suggests she might be. Climate data, resource projections, infrastructure assessments. They all point to severe problems in the coming decades. Whether it's as catastrophic as she claims. She shrugs. That's above my pay grade. So what do? We stop the other Leviathans. Find them before they're operational. Expose the consortium's activities. Force governments to address the infrastructure crisis through legitimate means instead of allowing Gearhart to become a dictator in the name of salvation. Sounds like a lot of work, Sarah observes. It is, which is why I'm offering you a permanent position. Join Imperial Intelligence. Work with me to stop the consortium. You'll have resources, support, and legal protection, plus a steady salary instead of job-to-job payments. You look at Sarah. She looks back at you. You've been partners for 3 years. Worked together, bled together, nearly died together. The thought of making it official, of turning your partnership into something more structured, feels both right and terrifying. We need to think about it. You say, finally. Take your time. Darkwater hands you a card with an address, but not too much time. The next Leviathan is already months into construction. We're running out of chances to stop this. After she leaves, you and Sarah sit on the dock, watching the sun rise over Port Merchant. The city is waking up to news of the explosion, the realization that the consortium's grip has been broken. There will be chaos, yes, but also opportunity, a chance to rebuild differently. Do you think she's right? Sarah asks. Gearhart, is the collapse really coming? I don't know. You think about the infrastructure reports, the failing systems, the problems that governments ignore until they become crises. Maybe, probably, but that doesn't mean her solution is the right one. So what's the right solution? You watch a cargo ship entering the harbor, its crew working together to navigate the tricky currents. No single solution, lots of small ones. People working together instead of being controlled by a single vision, no matter how brilliant that vision might be. Sarah nods slowly. So we stop the Leviathans. Not because Gearhart is wrong about the problem, but because her solution is worse than the disease. Exactly. And then what? After the Leviathans are stopped, you smile. Then we retire. For real this time. Find a quiet place. Maybe open a shop. Sell mundane items to mundane people and never think about conspiracies or mechanical nightmares again. Sarah laughs. We both know that's not going to happen. No, but it's a nice dream. 1 week later, you're on a ship bound for Iron Haven, the site of the second Leviathan project. You've accepted Darkwater's offer, at least temporarily. The work is too important to ignore, and someone needs to stop. Gearhart's vision of salvation through control. As the ship cuts through the waves, you stand at the rail beside Sarah, watching Port Merchant disappear behind you. The city is already beginning to rebuild, adapting to the absence of consortium control. It won't be easy. There will be setbacks and struggles, but it will be their struggle, not one imposed from above. Thinking about Torvin, Sarah asks, "You nod. Part of you hopes he died in the explosion. It would be simpler. But another part hopes he survived that. Someday you'll meet again and maybe convince him there's a better way. That you don't have to choose between freedom and survival. You think that's possible? I have to believe it is. Otherwise, what are we fighting for?" The ship sails on through calm waters, carrying you toward the next battle in a war you're only beginning to understand. Somewhere ahead, Lady Cassandra Gearhart is planning her next move. And somewhere behind you, Torvin Ironwright may be planning his revenge. But for now, in this moment, you have this. A ship cutting through water, a friend you trust, and the certainty that whatever comes next, you'll face it together. Because that's what you do. You find impossible problems, impossible situations, and you find a way through them. Not because you're heroes, not because you're special, but because someone has to, and it might as well be you. The sun climbs higher, warming your face. In the distance, you can see storm clouds gathering on the horizon. Whether they're real storms or metaphorical ones, you can't yet tell. But you'll find out soon enough, and you'll be ready. And with that, my dear friends, we'll bring tonight's tale to a close. I truly hope you enjoyed this one as much as I enjoyed putting it together. I got a little carried away along the way, which is why it ran longer than usual, but sometimes the best stories do. Until our paths cross again, take care of yourselves, rest easy, and may your dreams be kind.